How the Seneschal Struggled with His Wife's Modesty, by Honoré de Balzac. During the first days of his marriage, the Seneschal imprinted many fibs to tell his wife, whose so estimable innocence he abused. Firstly, he found in his judicial functions good excuses for leaving her at times alone. Then he occupied himself with the peasants of the neighborhood, and took them to dress the vines on his lands at Vouvray, and at length pampered her up with 1,000 absurd tales. At one time he would say that lords did not behave like common people, that the children were only planted at certain celestial conjunctions, ascertained by learned astrologers at another, that one should abstain from begetting children on feast days, because it was a great undertaking, and he observed the feasts like a man who wished to enter into paradise without consent. Sometimes he would pretend that if by chance the parents were not in a state of grace, the children commenced on the date of St. Clare would be blind of St. Gassion, had the gout of St. Agnes were scald-headed of St. Roch, had the plague sometimes, that those begotten in February were chilly in March, too turbulent in April, were worth nothing at all, and that handsome boys were conceived in May. In short, he wished his child to be perfect, to have his hair of 2 colors, and for this it was necessary that all the required conditions should be observed. At other times he would say to Blanche that the right of a man was to bestow a child upon his wife, according to his sole and unique will, and that if she pretended to be a virtuous woman, she should conform to the wishes of her husband. In fact, it was necessary to await the return of the Lady of Azay, in order that she should assist at the confinement, from all of which Blanche concluded that the Seneschal was annoyed by her requests, and was perhaps right, since he was old and full of experience, so she submitted herself and thought no more except to herself of this so much desired child, that is to say, she was always thinking of it like a woman who has a desire in her head, without suspecting that she was behaving like a gay lady or a townwalker running after her enjoyment. One evening, by accident, Brines spoke of children, a discourse that he avoided as cats avoid water, but he was complaining of a boy condemned by him that morning for great misdeeds, saying for certain, he was the offspring of people laden with mortal sins. Alas, said Blanche, if you will give me one, although you have not got absolution, I will correct so well that you will be pleased with him. Then the Count saw that his wife was bitten by a warm desire, and that it was time to dissipate her innocence, in order to make himself master of it, to conquer it, to beat it, or to appease and extinguish it. What, my dear, you wish to be a mother, said he. You do not yet know the business of a wife. You are not accustomed to being mistress of the house. Oh, said she, to be a perfect countess, and have in my loins a little count, must I play the great lady? I will do it, and thoroughly. Then Blanche, in order to obtain issue, began to hunt the fawns and stags, leaping the ditches, galloping upon her mare over valleys and mountain through the woods, and the fields, taking great delight in watching the falcons fly, in unhooding them, and while hunting always carried them gracefully upon her little wrist, which was what the Seneschal had desired. But in this pursuit, Blanche gained an appetite of nun and prelate, that is to say, wished to procreate, had her desires whetted, and could scarcely restrain her hunger, when on her return she gave play to her teeth. Now, by reason of reading the legends written by the way and of separating by death the embraces of birds and wild beasts, she discovered a mystery of natural alchemy, while coloring her complexion and superagitating her feeble imagination, which did little to pacify her warlike nature, and strongly tickled her desire, which laughed, played, and frisked. Unmistakably, the Seneschal thought to disarm the rebellious virtue of his wife by making her scour the country, but his fraud turned out badly, for the unknown lust that circulated in the veins of Blanche emerged from these assaults more hardy than before, inviting jousts and tourneys as the herald the armed knight. The good lord saw then that he had grossly erred, and that he was now upon the horns of a dilemma. Also, he no longer knew what course to adopt. The longer he left it, the more it would resist. From this combat there must result one conquered, and one contused at a diabolical contusion, which he wished to keep distant from his physiognomy by God's help, until after his death the poor Seneschal had already great trouble to follow his lady to the chase without being dismounted. He sweated under the weight of his trappings, and almost expired in that pursuit, wherein his frisky wife cheered her life, and took great pleasure many times in the evening. She wished to dance. Now the good man, swathed in his heavy clothing, found himself quite worn out with these exercises, in which he was constrained to participate either in giving her his hand, when she performed the vaults of the Moorish girl, or in holding the lighted faggot for her, when she had a fancy to do the torchlight dance, and in spite of his sciaticas, accretions, and rheumatisms, he was obliged to smile and say to her some gentle words and gallantries, after all the evolutions, mummeries, and comic pantomimes, which she indulged in to divert herself, for he loved her so madly, that if she had asked him for an impossibility, he would have sought one for her immediately. Nevertheless, one fine day, he recognized the fact that his frame was in a state of too great debility to struggle with the vigorous nature of his wife, and humiliating himself before his wife's virtue, he resolved to let things take their course, relying a little upon the modesty, religion, and bashfulness of Blanche. But he always slept with one eye open, for he suspected that God had perhaps made virginities to be taken like partridges to be spitted and roasted one wet morning, when the weather was that in which the snails make their tracks, a melancholy time, and suitable to reverie. Blanche was in the house, sitting in her chair in deep thought, because nothing produces more lively concoctions of the substantive essences, and no receipt, specific or filter, is more penetrating, transpiercing, or doubly transpiercing, and titillating, than the subtle warmth which simmers between the nap of the chair and a maiden sitting during certain weather. Now, without knowing it, the Countess was incommoded by her innocence, which gave more trouble than it was worth to her brain, and gnawed her all over. Then the good man, seriously grieved to see her languishing, wished to drive away the thoughts, which were ultra-conjugal principles of love. "Whence comes your sadness, sweetheart?" said he. "From shame." "What then affronts you?" "The not being a good woman, because I am without a child, and you without lineage, is one a lady without progeny. Nay, look, all my neighbors have it, and I was married to have it, as you to give it to me. The nobles of Touraine are all amply furnished with children, and their wives give them lapfuls. You alone have none. They laugh at you there. What will become of your name, and your fiefs, and your seigneuries? A child is our natural company. It is a delight to us to make a fright of it, to fondle it, to swaddle it, to dress and undress it, to cuddle it, to sing it lullabies, to cradle it, to get it up, to put it to bed, and to nourish it. And I feel that if I had only the half of one, I would kiss it, swaddle it, and unharness it, and I would make it jump and crow all day long as the other ladies do. Were it not that in giving them birth women die, and that for this you are still too delicate and too close in the bud, you would already be a mother," replied the seneschal, made giddy with the flow of words. "But will you buy one redimadet that will cost you neither pain nor labor?" "But," said she, "I want the pain and labor without which it will not be ours. I know very well it should be the fruit of my body, because at church they say that Jesus was the fruit of the Virgin's womb." "Very well, then, pray God that it may be so," cried the seneschal, "and intercede with the Virgin of Egrignols. Many a lady has conceived after the Neuvaine, you must not fail to do one." Then the same day Blanche set out towards Notre Dame de l'Egrignols, decked out like a queen riding her beautiful mare, having on her a robe of green velvet, laced down, with fine gold lace open at the breast, having sleeves of scarlet, little shoes, and a high hat, ornamented with precious stones, and a gold waistband that showed off her little waist as slim as a pole. She wished to give her dress to Madame the Virgin, and in fact promised it to her for the day of her churching. The Sire de Montsoreau galloped before her, his eye bright as that of a hawk, keeping the people back and guarding with his knights the security of the journey. Near Marmoustiers the seneschal, rendered sleepy by the heat, seeing it was the month of August, waggled about in his saddle like a diadem upon the head of a cow, and seeing so frolicsome and so pretty a lady by the side of so old a fellow, a peasant girl who was squatting near the trunk of a tree, and drinking water out of her stone jug, inquired of a toothless old hag, who picked up a trifle by gleaning, if this princess was going to bury her dead. "Nay," said the old woman, "it is Our Lady of Roche Corbin, wife of the Seneschal of Poitou and Touraine, in quest of a child." "Ah, ah," said the young girl, laughing like a fly just satisfied, then pointing to the handsome knight, who was at the head of the procession, "who marches at the head, would manage that she would save the wax candles and the vow." "Ha, my little one," replied the hag, "I am rather surprised that she should go to Notre Dame de l'Egrignols, seeing that there are no handsome priests there. She might very well stop for a short time beneath the shadow, the belfry of Marmoustiers. She would soon be fertile, those good fathers are so lively." "By a nun's oath," said a tramp, walking up, "look, the Sire de Montsoreau is lively and delicate enough to open the lady's heart, the more so as he is well formed to do so." And all commenced a laugh. The Sire de Montsoreau wished to go to them, and hang them in Limitree by the road as a punishment for their bad words. But Blanche cried out quickly, "Oh, sir, do not hang them, yet they have not said all they mean, and we shall see them on our return." She blushed, and the Sire de Montsoreau looked at her eagerly as though to shoot into her the mystic comprehensions of love. But the clearing out of her intelligence had already been commenced by the sayings of the peasants, which were fructifying in her. Understanding her innocence was like touchwood, there was only need for a word to inflame it. Thus Blanche perceived now the notable and physical differences between the qualities of her old husband and perfections of the said Gaudier, a gentleman who was not over-affected with his 23 years, but held himself upright as a ninepin in the saddle, and as wide-awake as the matin chimes, while in contrast to him slept the seneschal. He had courage and dexterity there, where his master failed. He was one of those smart fellows whom the jades would sooner wear at night than a leathern garment, because they then no longer fear the fleas. There are some who vituperate them, but no one should be blamed, because everyone should sleep as he likes. So much did the seneschal's lady think, and so imperially well, that by the time she arrived at the bridge of Tours, she loved Gaudier secretly as a maiden loves, without suspecting that it is love from that she became a proper woman, that is to say, she desired the good of others, the best that men have. She fell into a fit of lovesickness, going at the first jump, to the depth of her misery, seeing that all is flame between the first coveting and the last desire, and she knew not how. She then learned that by the eyes can flow in a subtle essence, causing such powerful corrosions, in all the veins of the body, recesses of the heart, nerves, of the members, roots of the hair, perspiration, of the substance, limbo, of the brain, orifices, of the epidermis, windings, of the pluck tubes, of the hypochondriac, and other channels, which in her was suddenly dilated, heated, tickled, envenomed, clawed, harrowed, and disturbed, as if she had a basket full of needles in her inside. This was a maiden's desire, a well-conditioned desire, which troubled her sight to such a degree that she no longer saw her old spouse, but clearly, the young Gaudier, whose nature was as ample as the glorious chin of an abbot. When the good man entered, the ah of the crowd woke him up, and he came with great pomp with his suite to the church of Notre Dame de l'Agrignoles, formerly called La Grenouille, as if you said that which has the most merit. Blanche went into the chapel, where children are asked to God and of the Virgin, and went there alone, as was the custom always, however, in the presence of the seneschal of his varlets, and the loiterers who remained outside the grille. When the Countess saw the priest come who had charge of the masses said for children, and who received the said vows, she asked him if there were many barren women, to which the good priest replied that he must not complain, and that the children were good revenue to the church. "And do you often see," said Blanche, "young women with such old husbands as my lord?" "Rarely," said he. "But have those obtained offspring?" "Always," replied the priest, smiling. "And the others, whose companions are not so old?" "Sometimes." Oh, said she, "there is more certainty than with one like the seneschal." "To be sure," said the priest. "Why?" said she. "Madame," gravely replied priest, "before that age God alone interferes with the affair, after it is the men." At this time, it was a true thing that all the wisdom had gone to the clergy. Blanche made her vow, which was a very profitable one, seeing that her decorations were worth quite 2,000 gold crowns. "You are very joyful," said the old seneschal to her, when on the home journey she made her mare prance, jump, and frisk. Yes, said she, "there is no longer any doubt about my having a child, because anyone can help me." The priest said, "I shall take Gaudier." The seneschal wished to go and slay the monk, but he thought that was a crime which would cost him too much, and he resolved cunningly to arrange his vengeance with the help of the archbishop. And before the housetops of Roch Corbin came in sight, he had ordered the Sire de Montsoreau to seek a little retirement in his own country, which the young Gaudier did. Knowing the ways of the Lord, the seneschal put in the place of the said Gaudier, the son of the Sire de Jallanges, whose fief was held from Roch Corbin. He was a young boy named René, approaching 14 years, and he made him a page, awaiting the time when he should be old enough to be an equerry, and gave the command of his men to an old cripple with whom he had knocked about a great deal in Palestine and other places. Thus the good man believed he would avoid the horn trappings of cuckoldom, and would still be able to girth bridle, and curb the factious innocence of his wife, which struggled like a mule held by a rope.